Now, this other matter that came up that I think you will have some useful wisdom and insight to suggest. All my banners are in the way of it, sadly, at the moment, so I'm hastily removing them.
There we go.
Yeah, I help people with our Portugal club on a Tuesday night, and I posted up proudly. It's awful when this happens. It's a bit like my Portugal thing. I'm thinking it's so great, and then somebody will come back that clearly shows that I should have thought about it a bit more. And here's another one of those examples of happily, proudly posting something. Pride comes before a fall. I'm a little crestfallen by the response to this. I've actually moved on because I think it's important to address it. Joao Ferreira, responding to my plea or invitation to work with Americans, says, "My friend, it's very sad to be helping foster rich immigration when all we know that this rich immigration has been contributing to the agony of Portugal. Sorry, but just have to say it. Stop negotiating with the well-being of the Portuguese." Now, if anyone says to me, "You're negotiating or playing with the well-being of the Portuguese," I take that very seriously.
Absolutely.
So that's why we're talking about it this morning. And I think it's fair to say the translation may have made it sound somewhat dark and even poetic. But we get the gist, don't we? We get the gist that our friend there, Senor Ferreira, is a little bit difficult. Finds it a little bit difficult. Is not entirely happy with my behaviour in encouraging rich people to come to Portugal. So let's talk about it. What do you make of this, Heather?
I think there's a lot of misinformation. I think there's a lot of misguided angst out there.
Yeah.
And I look at it differently. And one of the reasons I do is my background being in real estate. I did residential, but I also, towards the end of my, not end of my career, but end of living in Arizona, I worked with investors and I did multifamily and other sorts of commercial real estate. And first of all, they're real people, these investors, these people with money. Many of them are really good people. They want to do the right things. They want to help people. Of course, they want to make money, but at the end of the day, if you're living in an apartment right now, who is your landlord? They're this investor. They're one of these people that are creating a space for you to live and rent in. And so I don't understand personally why it's always just looked at as like bad if people either have money or want to bring in money to refurbish something. If you're buying a property that's 20 plus years old that needs work and you're putting 100,000 plus into it, why is that bad? When, as an example, my house was on the market over 2 years. I'm in the country. I'm in 12 minutes east of Caldas, and which is considered like middle of nowhere to a lot of Portuguese and people. 20 minutes from the coast, so I'm not right at the beach or anything like that. And nobody wanted this property. Nobody wanted to put in the money to upkeep and maintain it, and it was getting really deferred maintenance. It still looked nice, but it's starting to show the wear of not being lived in. It was vacant. And so absolutely there's concern for availability of housing and affordable housing and the different larger cities where that's been driven up. I get that. But I think overall you have to see the bigger picture. I'm a bigger picture person in a lot of ways. You said detail, and I do focus on deep detail, but I also really pull back and look at that bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that immigrants fuel the economy, bring billions of dollars, help bring jobs, bring work. I employ people on a regular basis. I now partner with all sorts of vendors in Portugal that are, paying their taxes and the Social Security and the whole thing. And we're all doing our part to bring something better to Portugal and richer. And yes, it's different. It's different, and the culture is going to change. But without Portugal, according to this ec.europa.eu website. Between the consensus or census from 2011 to 2021, the native population decreased in Portugal by 2.1%.
Yeah.
And it says, if it had not been for the country's foreign population, this decrease would have been even more severe. So to me, the bigger issues are actually the government, the culture, what's still trickling down from the previous political issues and current political issues. And we aren't hurting Portugal in general or overall if we're contributing and bringing in stimulation, bringing in funds, bringing in other people, growing the population, bringing in children. Because, you know, our Portuguese friends, so many of them, they've given up. They've given up on aspiring to do better and really, you know, build a business or do something great because the structure of Portugal and their situation with taxes and so forth. And so if those people have given up and that's all you have here, you know, is people just doing the rote thing over and over again, we're going to lose the creativity. We're going to lose the growth. We're going to lose the innovation. We're going to lose, you know, the markets and the restaurants brought in by, you know, Brazilians and Chinese. And, you know, there's a couple of the largest groups, you know, here that have immigrated, and Americans, you know, I mean, we're like next to nothing at this point.
It's true, isn't it? And we should make that point because there was another, I think it was New York Times article over the weekend. These articles come out on a regular basis now, don't they?
Yes.
And it triggers people in all sorts of ways. It's like, oh my God, how many more million Americans are now coming because of this news article? And actually, it's still under 10,000 Americans, I think, isn't it? In Portugal,
it's a very small number.
Tiny. You could say vocal minority. And I think that's because American people are quite introspective, analytical, and occasionally, how would we say?
Have big mouths.
Yeah.
I have to say, I say that because they know me at my camera. Like they look out, like they know, you know. And so I just go there, and I swear, I just like zip my lip and just smile and like, you know, bon dia, and go there with my Portuguese gal and, you know, let her do her thing. And I've learned that my A-type personality of get things done, be responsive, boom, 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 is just like the antithesis of actually getting something accomplished. So yeah, I think verbal, vocal, visual, when it comes to Americans, is maybe the issue there that creates a lot of misperception, if you will. I don't know if that's a word.
It's a cultural thing. I think American people are very expressive and articulate.
You said that's so much nicer than big mouth.
That's what I meant to say. That's what I meant to say. And you know, I haven't got a leg to stand on as a Brit. If I, you know, go to the Algarve and you know, there are aspects of being British that are really quite awkward when you go down to the Algarve. But on this matter of rich immigration, thank you for what you said. Carl agrees. Well said, Heather. Immigration is a net positive for sure. And it's like you were saying, I think, wasn't it, about how people approach immigration to Portugal? You know, the stock or instant answer is never the answer, is it? And that's just a quick opinion. And this is a rich. This should be a rich discussion about rich immigration, and a nuanced and ongoing discussion. There are no quick answers to this. The reality is that 1 in 10, I think, people in Portugal will be an immigrant if it's not already that number.
Right.
And that the trend is heading towards greater numbers, not fewer. And it's a conversation we need to be having, and that's why I have it here. I like it. And yeah, of course, here's part of the nuance. What qualifies as rich? I'm sure there are some resentful Americans who think, I do not want to be seen as, you know, some wave of a billionaire migration here. That is not me at all. I'm just getting by on my pension here, enjoying a better quality of life. And in some ways, they are economic migrants in their own way, aren't they? So it is a very broad and rich picture. We'll continue to have this conversation. I love what you've said so far on it, Heather. And Senor Ferreira, you are invited to come and talk to us as well on the show. So let's keep having this conversation, because it's a really important one, I think, for the long term, that people understand each other. And not only will it help, I think, ease some of the tensions that might develop and some of the prejudices and opinions that might develop that can go in what I would see as the wrong direction. But if people have this conversation and they talk, we could have some amazing positives as well, couldn't we, that come out of that conversation of richness and diversity. So let's look at rich from the point of view, perhaps, of rich in diversity and culture, rather than rich in terms of immigration and money winning again. Because I don't think it's developers are going to develop, right? It's not their fault that the government aren't doing their bit and making affordable housing. That's not really, and right. I'm sure if part of the golden visa or the development plans were to provide affordable housing,
exactly,
the well-being of the Portuguese, that if you had to do that, people would do it, wouldn't they? But I think there is, we found this with this recent housing policy stuff, is that a lot of it is huff and puff and political game playing rather than any serious solutions. I think you want us to add something to that.
No, that's 100%. I mean, one of my biggest investors I worked with in Arizona did Section 8 housing, which is multifamily housing for low income, like people on welfare, like the whole nine, and he realized that there were incentives for him to do that. And so it not only has a huge need, he never doesn't have tenants, but he's found a way to make that profitable for himself. And that's great, because the waiting list for Section 8 is like insane. Yeah. And so, and that's in Arizona. Yeah. And, I think that the government needs to do things much smarter and not be relying on these clickbait headlines and things like that. And actually, the golden visa, there were bad aspects of that, certainly, potentially, for, the bigger cities and so forth. But if somebody is going to come to the country, or Caldish, even Caldish, as popular as it is in so many ways, has tons of vacant buildings. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Right across from the park, there's a big open space that's just open to the sky. Used to be a building.
It's a beautiful building. Heather, I'm so sorry, I have to interrupt here, because we're keeping MJ waiting. Who we got carried away talking here. There are about 7,000 Americans live in Portugal, but it seems like 7 million are here on vacation. Let's give her a nice big round of applause. Here she is, Maria Joao Silva. Good morning to you.
Hi.
MJ. Hi. Returning to this serious matter that we've been discussing this morning, and I did give you a little preview of it just to get your thoughts on it, MJ. My friend, it's very sad to be helping foster rich immigration when we all know that this immigration has been contributing to the agony of Portugal, and the well-being of the Portuguese is called into question by this. We'll stay with that phrase for the time being, the rich immigration. How does this occur to you as a Portuguese person? I'm not asking you to speak for all Portuguese, but you certainly can give us an angle that we don't have.
Well, when you sent me the sentence yesterday, I was reading it, and it didn't make any resonance with me. I don't know if I can explain very well, because why is it hurting Portugal? I didn't understand his point of view. What does he mean by it's so? Because to me, I think it's a good thing that people, as we discussed before, I think it's enriching to have other people coming to our country, because it helps us respect and honor and accept not only our, and stop being so closed as we have been for years.
Right.
So I think it's a great idea that Americans are coming to Portugal, English people are coming to Portugal, because I don't understand basically, because Portuguese people are all over the world, and we've always
Yeah.
been welcome in America, in England, in Australia, in Africa, everywhere that we are welcome there. So it's our time, in my view, to welcome, to do the same for the people that have nested us, for us to nest you and everyone that wants to come here in Portugal. So what do you think he really means by this statement?
I think my first guess or response is that extreme wealth, as Senor Ferreira might perceive it, it can be quite a brutal tool, can't it? I mean, pricing people out of the neighborhood. I think that's what he's referring to. I think he's talking about gentrification, globalization, and we see that with that as a global phenomenon. There's the cat in question. No question, that is a problem. It's never good to see people unable to afford housing in the neighborhoods or even towns where they grew up. That is unfortunate and an awkward part of how we organize ourselves politically and economically. And I don't think it's only the people coming in who are to blame for that. It's part of a problem, but to point anyone out to take the blame individually is an error, because it's a systemic problem and not without an individual culprit, I would say.
Well,
I think
evidently,
that's what he's talking about.
And Carl,
yes.
that's exactly it. So in Arizona, in Phoenix, it's the Californians are coming. The Californians are coming, and they're driving up all our prices, and we can't afford housing in Phoenix. That's literally, the talk. And so it's the same thing. It's literally everywhere. And it's also not true. That's also been proven as not the case. Or it's the iBuyers, the big companies buying that rose up the price in Phoenix. And also, we just, so much of this is marketing crap, for lack of a better word, and not actual real information and what really is going on. And again, it's distraction. It's whoever the government's throwing distraction at us, so we'll bicker back and forth versus actually talk about real solutions that could help more people afford housing, not get priced out, stop this thing that's going on. But it is absolutely going on globally, from everybody I talk to, in my experience in real estate myself.
Well said. From what I can observe, it's not the coming of foreign Americans, English, Portugal, that is raising, for example, the prices. It's really, when it started, it was priced up. So it's not, you have certain areas where wealthy people just are attracted to. For example, here in Cascais, you have Quinta da Marinha and some other places there that have been priced up, were already up. They just, rose a little bit. And some of the houses are around those areas are, the prices are a little bit higher. But it's not because of the coming of the immigrants, not at all. It's just, it happened.
Yeah.
It's the economy that is always, it's circular. So, or, it has peaks and then downs. And so it's just natural. So blaming foreign people for that it's not even fair.
Yeah, and it is a shame, isn't it, that
in my
people,
view. And
people want someone to blame, I suppose, don't they? You know, we have challenges in our lives, and one quick way of responding to that is to blame somebody else. I'm not saying that is what Senor Ferreira is doing, but it's quite an easy habit for human beings to get into. While we're doing that, we're not working on the solution,
true.
are we? And that's the thing here.
Exactly.
I think there are solutions, and what would be great, I think, for our migrant community is to be part of the solution. To work in conjunction with the government and the Portuguese people to make sure it's a win-win situation ultimately.
Exactly.
So we're waiting for the call. We're ready. We're ready to have the conversation and be part of that incredible solution. And wouldn't it be wonderful if that were another of Portugal's great gifts to the world? It's like, we're figuring out how to do this. You didn't manage to do it in Prague or Amsterdam or Barcelona, but actually we're doing something a bit different here. Come and take a look. So we wait for that call from the government. I think we do.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
We represent a very willing community, I think, of people who have a sense of responsibility, not just to come and take what they want from the country. I don't meet people like that, and that's a caricature I know exists, and I'm uncomfortable with, and that's why I talk about it so much, I think. Okay.